Hello everyone, what's Gucci? Hope you're having an awesome day wherever and whenever you're watching this. I'm your host Eamon Hassan and welcome back to another video here at Most Amazing Top 10. Now possession stories are great in my opinion, not great for the person being possessed, but great for the people on the outside. I mean, I personally love documentaries about them, films about them scare the hell out of me, but all in all it's a good time. So let's just talk about it. This is the top 10 scary possession stories. Starting us off, number 10 is Michael Taylor. Now this one is a bit gruesome, so prepare yourselves people. Now Michael Taylor became known after the Ossett murder case. He lived in Ossett and him and his wife Christine both belonged to a Christian fellowship group. Slowly but surely Michael started displaying erratic and socially distant behavior. In one meeting at the church, Christine accused him of cheating on her with the leader of the group, Marie Robinson, to which he reacted by verbally attacking her and Marie. His behavior declined further and he admitted that he felt evil within him and that it was decided he had to be seen by priests. Well, go figure. I'd be damned if no one thought he had to be looked at after that. Damned, lol, pun intended, go me. His exorcism took all night and they managed to pull 40 demons from his body, but several still stayed inside him. After a long tiring night they sent him home hoping for the best, but then he proceeded to violently murder Christine by tearing her eyes and tongue out and almost tearing her face off completely, and then strangling the family poodle to death. Don't know what the poodle did to deserve that. He was arrested after being found wandering the streets naked and covered in blood. In his trial he pleaded insanity but was sent to Broadmoor for a while, but upon his release he got arrested again for touching a teen indecently. So all in all, Michael's life just hasn't been ideal. Coming in at number 9 is the son of Sam, aka David Berkowitz, and funnily enough I actually listened to like an hour-long serial killer podcast about him, so I'm quite well versed in Mr. Berkowitz. Anyway, David was one of America's most notorious serial killers. Between 1976 and 77 he killed 6 women and wounded 7 others in failed murder attempts. His moniker came from his neighbor's dog Sam, which he loathed more than anything. He claimed the dog was possessed by a 6,000-year-old man called Sam who told him to kill people. David was adopted a few days after being born and his adoptive mother told him that his real mother had died during childbirth, which wasn't true at all, but that caused him to really hate himself. When he found out that wasn't true in his teens, he started loathing women and hence all his victims were girls. He shot all his victims trying to go for the headshot but not always succeeding. He pleaded not guilty because of insanity and possession, but they rejected that and said he was fully competent to stand trial. 2 weeks after his 25 to life sentence, he tried to jump out of a 7th floor window and was restrained but kept shouting, "Stacy was a whore, I'd kill her again, I'd kill them all again." He then went on to retract his statement saying he was possessed, but in his later prison diaries he wrote about how he was scared Sam would evolve into a human or demon in a more complete state. So he's gone back and forth on his possession story, so till this day no one really is sure. At number 8 we have Julia. Now Julia's case is quite recent, it only happened in 2008, and I say that's recent even though that was like 11 years ago, but it seems like 2 years ago, okay? Let me live. Anyway, Dr. Richard Gallagher is a self-proclaimed man of science, but he became the go-to guy for exorcisms in the US. He saw it with his own eyes countless times, people suddenly speaking perfect Latin, sacred objects flying off shelves, all of it. So one day he was called to help a woman dubbed Julia. She was a charming normal woman but was also the queen of a satanic cult. Maybe that was her day job, who knows. And one day she went to a priest claiming she was being attacked by a demon. Objects would fly off shelves around her, she knew things about Richard there was no way she could have known, and even when he was on the phone to a priest they both heard her demonic trance voices, which was pretty much virtually impossible because she was thousands of miles away and nowhere near a phone whatsoever. They ended up finally exorcising her, during which she started speaking in tongues, exhibiting superhuman strength, levitating, and then changing the temperature of the room. Right. I hope she had a happy ending. I hope she really had a happy ending. Filling our number 7 slot is angry mode. This one was truly something and it was shared by Reddit user PossessedTW. So this Moroccan guy is a 6'2" dude who does Aikido and is just an all-around unit. Him and his dad and brothers are all the same build and his aunt is a 5'4" smallish woman. His aunt would go into what they called angry mode, where she'd get incredibly angry randomly saying nonsensical words and none of them would be able to get her down, and it actually took all 4 of of them to pin her down because it seemed like her strength had multiplied by 10. Her angry modes got worse and worse, and her husband ended up contacting an exorcist who told him to put a drop of her blood in a glass of water and leave it somewhere in the apartment while she sleeps. So they did that, but then the next day the glass was empty because apparently the aunt drank all of it. In a more desperate attempt, the family actually traveled to Morocco to meet a man who performed exorcisms. He told them to buy a sheep for sacrifice and bring its guts to him. So the family did that and he put them in a bowl. The family stayed in the room and the exorcism began. She's lying down in the middle, the family is holding hands surrounding her, and the man starts talking in Arabic faster and faster. His aunt starts twitching at this point and writhing in pain, and then all of a sudden the lights went out, as they always do when something scary happens. Then the exorcist screamed, then his aunt screamed, and then silence. When someone finally turned on a lamp, both the exorcist and the aunt had passed out, and the sheep guts were now black. The man finally woke up and said the demon is now possessing the sheep and that they have to get rid of the guts. After that point, the aunt never had any angry mode outbursts again, and thank God. We killed the sheep for you, woman, you better be okay. Now at number 6 is the housekeeper. So this family had a live-in maid who one day started screaming religious obscenities while her body contorted into unnatural shapes. Already this is just going great. Sadly, the only person in the house that had to deal with all this was the family's young teenage daughter. So when she found the maid, she initially thought, oh my god, this woman is having a seizure, I need to help her. The girl tried to get her in the car so they could go to the hospital, but she was continually contorting and on the verge of actually hurting herself, so she abandoned the plan altogether. She managed to get some neighbors and security guards to help her, and they pinned the maid down onto a mattress for 2 to 3 hours until she finally stopped screaming. The family's daughter was also hysterically crying at this point after all she'd seen, so things just really weren't going well. When the parents finally came home, honestly, where the hell were they when this was going on? They refused to call any priest but called the paramedics instead. She only calmed down when she was given a sedative. This happened many more times, and the family spoke to the woman's relatives, who said whenever she would have a possessed episode, they would hog-tie her to a bed till she calmed down. Damn. Coming in at number 5 is the boarding school. This one's from Redditor I Brought Hummus, great username by the way, who said one of her teachers used to work at a boarding school and one day they were having a movie night. A girl asked to use the bathroom and after a while the teacher got worried and went to check on her. She found her huddled in the corner of the shower, foaming at the mouth with bloodshot eyes. She started hissing at the teacher and saying incoherent things in a very deep voice that clearly wasn't her own. The teacher freaked out and called some other teachers over to try and help the situation. They took her to her dorm after a while and saw "I love Satan" written all over her bunk bed. The girl ended up leaving the school after the incident and no one really knows what happened to her. Or at least I certainly don't, and neither did the Reddit thread, so I'm just gonna say no one knows what happened. At number 4 is the nun, and no, I'm not talking about Valak, but it would be pretty scary if I was. Now Marisica Irina Konichi was a nun who started hearing voices at the age of 23. She thought it was the devil talking to her, telling her she was sinful, but other nuns refused to believe it and she was treated for schizophrenia. However, she relapsed, and so a monk and 4 other nuns tried something else, an exorcism. She was bound to a cross, gagged with a towel, and left in a dark room for 3 whole days with no food or water. That's proper torture, that's not even an exorcism. Sadly, this doesn't end well, and Marisica actually ended up dying due to dehydration and suffocation. She was meant to go to a nearby village 10 days later, but obviously never did. Daniel, the monk who led the exorcism, said he restrained her because she became violent and refused to drink the holy water. Can't you just throw it, flick it at her? No. But anyway, the psychiatrist who treated her said this was all a symptom of schizophrenia and that she was most likely having her first episode. But again, this also doesn't add up because they thought that originally and then she relapsed. Either way, I guess we'll never really figure out what the true cause was, but Daniel and the 4 nuns were charged with aggravated murder and could face 25 years to life. Filling our number 3 slot is GINA. So back in 1990, Reverend James Labar performed many exorcisms, one of which were on a Florida teen called GINA. Her exorcism was televised by the ABC network in 1991. Can we just, is that even humane? GINA was hospitalized for displaying psychotic behavior, and she went from that to tabloid fodder. Was she even capable of consent? During the exorcism, which 29 million people tuned into, GINA is strapped to a chair while she barks at the priest and speaks in gibberish at them. She was possessed by demonic spirits, one was called Zion and the other called Minga. The priest pressed a cross to her face saying, "You want pain, I'll give you pain," and then read the Roman Catholic rite of exorcism. After After that, she was sent home but then re-hospitalized and given antipsychotic drugs within a few days. Her psychiatrist claimed the exorcism was a serious risk to her health and that she may have just been delusional. Either way, I feel like something that puts you in that vulnerable of a space and at a time you really don't have any control over what you're doing should really not be televised. Where are her parents? Why didn't anybody stop this? I'm angry. Now at number 2 is Gottliebin Dittus. That's an interesting name. Now this one is quite old if you couldn't tell from the name. In 1842, villagers in a German village noticed that weird things were happening in the home of 28-year-old Gottliebin, and she kept telling everyone her house was haunted. And they would have done well believing her, but at that time they just full on didn't. I'm sorry you were surrounded by snakes, Gottliebin. It's not your fault. You deserved better. Soon after that, she started slipping in and out of trances. After that, a religious pastor quickly stepped in and offered to do an exorcism, and that's when shit really hit the fan. She became extremely violent to the point she needed physical restraints, and the man exorcised her for 2 whole years. Can you imagine being tortured physically and mentally every day for 2 years? During those years, she used to vomit blood, glass, nails, you name it. Finally, after it was all over, she told everyone that the demons were gone and Jesus is the victor. I mean, at least there was a happy ending after all that. And finally at number 1 is George Lukins. Around the late 1700s, in a village 20 miles from Bristol, England, residents were terrified of a man named George Lukins. Having been normal his whole life, his behavior just did a full 180. He started spontaneously barking like a dog or snarling like an animal. He would sing or chant in a foreign language that this illiterate man could not have known at all. He'd sing hymns backwards and speak in a man and woman's voice, and if he didn't do any of that, he would just shout obscenities or profanities for no apparent reason. What made this all worse was that when he was having one of these episodes, he would convulse and start walking on all fours and fall everywhere as if he was being thrown about by invisible hands. Going from a calm, collected man to this just wasn't normal. These episodes were unpredictable and lasted his whole life, causing his family to put him in a mental hospital. But it got even worse. I didn't even know it could, but it can. He started lashing out at people and breaking items that were far beyond his strength and speaking in voices that weren't his. He started telling people he was possessed by 7 separate demons and that he needed 7 different priests to exorcise him. When it finally happened, there were hundreds of people outside the church just waiting to see what would happen. The first thing that happened was he started singing in an eerie, high-pitched voice and then a deep voice that told the priests that they'd fail. His voice went from man to woman, there was barking, growling, all of it. He even sang a hymn called To the Devil. After 2 intense hours and being pinned down, George himself said the evil presences were gone. And thank God, because that was really stressing me out. And that's it for today's video, guys. This was a long one, so kudos to you for sticking to the end if you did. I love how this video started with me saying, oh, these stories were so good, and now I'm just like, I feel like that's just really not the right word to use here. Let me know in the comments below which story scared you the most, and if you have any of your own. I really hope you don't. As always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll see you next time. Bye!